Welcome to my exhibit called Field of Life, Monument Structures. I'm M. Dyer. This is a retrospective of my paintings and artwork that are socially and political commentary from 1970s to present day. This is one of my paintings that is part of the Death Watch series. It's called Big Grandma. And the Death Watch series was about people that I was close to that were in a lot of times end-of-life situations, and this is an example of that. And Big Grandma was, at this point when I did the painting, was really bedridden. This piece was done in 1983, and it was a thing that it was a tribute to my big grandma. How's that? This painting is a construction that is called Wyoming. It was done in 1999. That's the year that Matthew Shepard was found strapped to a fence, and mainly where people had tortured and killed him because of his sexual identity. And it's a thing that I feel very strongly that we don't need to have things like that happening. But this is a piece that's an homage to Matthew Shepard. This is a piece that I did in 1999. It's called Freedom is Only Skin Deep. It's very typical of things that I did then with dyed pulp and painting with the actual pulp, and which is a little bit different than using a paintbrush. But anyway, it's something that I did a number of those types of pieces, and this was a piece that actually means something to me as far as Freedom's Only Skin Deep. It's a statement about a black person, a black man, and how they have been discriminated against through time and are still discriminated against. And it's something that our society needs to address. This is a painting that's a collaborative painting that I did with my daughter. I did the painting on the right, and my daughter did the part on the left with the cutouts. Carrie Allison Dyer, and actually the words here were generated by my wife. There was also sound with this piece that was about the whispers that happen at funerals where people are talking about how someone died, and which is not in this showing. But basically it is a piece that was done in 2019, and it was done in response to the opioid epidemic. And the person that's in the casket was one of mine that had died of opioid overdose. And the image of the person holding the baby is her mother, who is holding her baby that she had had recently. And then the person behind her mother is her sister, which also, she died after this painting was completed, and of the same thing, of opioid epidemic. This is a painting that I did of Barbara Ann Fletcher. That's the name of it. And it's when Fletcher was a young baby, probably less than a year old, I think. But these paintings that I'll talk about right now are all done in the 80s. And this was a piece to kind of commemorate life. I've done other pieces in the past about Death Watch and different things like that, and there was this whole series that I did that are basically about life and about things that I'm experiencing that are not as morose as the Death Watch. But anyway, this is Fletcher, Barbara Ann Fletcher, and this one here is a painting that was done around the same time. It was called Carrie. Carrie was a swimmer, and she identified herself as a swimmer, and this was a tribute to her and her swimming. And it's a piece that kind of shows her at that time on the beach with people walking by in the background and all that. Okay. And then next is the other one that is called Barbara Ann Fletcher. And this one is really kind of love the color of this because it's so warm and so exciting from that standpoint. And anyway, it's another one of Barbara Ann Fletcher. Over here on this side, also, this was part of the Life Watch series. This is Barbara and Jessica. This is a niece of Barb's, my wife, and it's done. This is painted, actually a painting on handmade paper. This was Barbara in India. Our other daughter, India, is this is an image of hers, and it's also on handmade paper, and it is painted with. These are both painted with acrylic. This is a painting of Carrie again when she was really young and in a playpen, and it was done as another part of the Life Watch series, and it's meant to kind of show that time of her life. Another thing about this painting is that this painting was done when I was in graduate school. And it was a part of what she was doing. She was a lot of times watching me paint or watching me work, or part of the scene with me, and I'd be taking care of her and actually doing my work. This is a piece called December 12th, 1981. It is a piece about the Polish Solidarity movement, and the time of December 12, 1981 was the day that the Russian tanks rolled in to quash Solidarity in Poland, and of course to interrupt their opportunity to live in a democratic society. This is a piece that is part of the Death Watch series. And this was a piece that I did called Unk, U-N-K. Unk was one of my favorite uncles, and he had esophageal cancer, and at this point of the cancer, he was going through probably the last days, but he had a look about him that I wanted to remember, and this is the look that I expected that I wanted to remember about him. And it was a thing where it's a very noble piece because it's kind of shows a look of someone going through tremendous tragedy and yet staying a lot the same and not necessarily letting it destroy them. It is like I said, it's part of the Death Watch series, and it's a piece that I'm very much like and still like. This is a painting of mine that is it's called Early Times 587, Cut Tear on Perforation. It has a weird name, but it's meant to be showing something that's very serious. It is a construction, as you can see. It's got things that are constructed together that show like IV bottles and IVs of different types, and then pill bottles and things like that at the top. And then it's got this old television that is actually, it has a comical teeth chattering thing going on. And what the piece is meant to do is it's an attempt to show that a lot of times we're told that in old age it's the golden years, and we look at, it's the kind of reason I have this kind of gold color that comes in the center. And the golden years is kind of a joke in a way, because we have this view of what they can be, but this is what they end up being a lot of times, is that the end of life situations that you have and all that. This could have been a part of my Death Watch series. I never necessarily described it that way, but it has a similar type of point of view as that. And anyway, it's got all these accoutrements of sickness and illness that we all go through, and then it's also the idea of the youth over here on the right-hand side, the young person, and then the reality of aging on this side. And this is actually my mother-in-law, Nana, and loved her very much, and unfortunately she went through a horrendous ending with corticobasal degeneration, and it's a really horrible thing where you lose mechanical capabilities, and but you retain your mind. You totally know everything that's going on, and it's really hard for people to understand that. But anyway, that's what she had, and that's the reason this painting was done. This next painting that I want to talk about is one that is part of the Vietnam series that I did, and this one is called Sparky. Sparky was a friend of mine that I knew really in high school, and he was drafted and went to Vietnam, and like many of the other friends that I had, and actually there are more than one painting that's about a friend in the Vietnam series. But basically, he went to Vietnam and was killed, and it was a tragic thing. And basically, I did a painting on what I imagined that one's death might be like. It's not something that I knew firsthand how he was killed or anything, but it was a thing where. It was actually more tragic because later on I found out that his wife actually had a baby that he never saw. And it was really tragic to think that someone had all these possibilities with life and that was cut short in a in a foreign country that where they had to serve and were their life was cut short. Anyway, Sparky was the friend, and that's the painting. Okay. This painting is a construction that I did. It's called Just Because I Exist. It was done in 1997, and it is basically about hatred. And it was about a little more than that, but up here you see the image of the Ku Klux Klan, an image that I appropriated, that I found actually, that was a pretty disturbing image. Basically it's has hate written across the top here. Also, there's a piece of bread there, like white bread. The whole idea is kind of a white bread thing, that hate. But anyway, the painting is about more than that to me. It's a construction. It's about the way people react with one another. It's also about my daughter, India. This is my daughter, India. And one of the things that's really obvious if you get to know India is that she is quite intelligent, got a lot of things that she has to offer. And a lot of people never see that because they don't engage her. One of the things that is amazing is, to give you an idea of why the name is what it is, Just Because I Exist. A lot of times we found that people didn't react very well to her just because they knew she had Down syndrome. And one of the things that happened very commonly is when we would go in restaurants, we'd be sitting there ready to be served, and the waitress would come ask us what we wanted, and then would say, "What does she want?" And our response was, "Why don't you ask her?" And they came around and did, and found out that she could tell them what she wanted. And anyway, this was the idea behind this piece, and it is of course a little more involved in that, but also it has writing on it, type, and different things like that that help people understand it a little better. Anyway. A lot of times with India, people would do mean-spirited things to her without any reason other than the way she looked. This next painting that I did, these were part of a lot of figure studies that I did, and they all had something to say, something that probably was on my mind the time I was painting them, and they kind of became what I wanted to say. And this one was one that when I did the painting, the figure study was one thing, but the dog was not there. I decided to put this dog or wolf or whatever, this angry animal in. And then I wrote on the words on it, and the name of the piece is Lie Still and They Won't Bite. And the Lie Still and They Won't Bite refers back to the dog, but the dog is supposed to be a symbol of something that we had experienced. We used to go and with parents that had children with disability, and we would go with them to school systems and try to get them a good situation for their child. And basically, the dog really represents the people we had to deal with in that respect, is that we always felt that if we just lie still, they won't bite us, and the reality is well, that probably wasn't totally true, but it was something that you experience. And so they become a symbol for the people that we had to work with, or the dog becomes a symbol.